I swear, if that smug bastard had said one more word, I might have given him a smile so crooked it would have needed dental insurance. We were at a dinner I didn't even want. My wife, Ashley, had insisted it was important. The way she said it, I thought maybe she finally wanted to work on our marriage. But when I walked into that little overpriced Italian place downtown, I realized I'd been lured into a performance I hadn't auditioned for. Ashley was already seated at a corner table. Across from her sat Chase Donovan, her colleague. You know the type. Too much cologne, shirt so tight it looked like it was begging for mercy, smirk plastered on his face like he was doing me a favor just by existing. Logan, Ashley said sweetly, waving me over. This is Chase. You've heard me mention him from work. He stood just enough to offer his hand. I shook it because I was raised right, but I'll admit, my fist clenched harder than it should have. Chase didn't waste time. He leaned back, locked eyes with me, and said, I'll make this simple. You've got two options. Leave quietly, or face me like a man. I blinked. The audacity. Ashley didn't flinch, she just smiled. For a second, I thought maybe I'd misheard. But no, he was daring me to step aside while he slid into my life like it was a rental car he'd already scratched. I smiled back, leaned forward, and said calmly, You want your teeth whole, or in pieces? That wiped the smirk off, but before he could answer, Ashley cut in, her voice sharp as the knife beside her plate. Logan, don't embarrass yourself. Embarrass myself? That's rich. She had paraded me in here like some old dog she was about to leave at the shelter, and I was supposed to wag my tail. The waiter came over, oblivious to the quiet war brewing at our table. Can I start you folks off with drinks? Scotch, I said, I still on Chase. Ashley sighed. Water for me. Chase. Same as him. Chase said, still holding my stare. It was a game now, and I don't lose games. What Ashley didn't know, what neither of them knew, was that I'd already been one step ahead for weeks. That dinner wasn't a surprise to me. Not really. See, Ashley thought she was pulling strings behind the curtain, but I'd already read the script. Weeks earlier, I'd found the lipstick stain on a coffee cup that wasn't hers, the late-night work calls that mysteriously ended when I walked into the room, and the kicker, the Uber receipt on her phone for a ride to an address that sure as hell wasn't her office. So when she invited me to talk, I knew it wasn't a conversation. It was a presentation. I played along. Why not? A good magician lets the audience believe the trick is working right up until the reveal. The drinks came, and Chase raised his glass. To new beginnings, he said smoothly, eyes flicking toward Ashley. I clinked my glass with his. Funny, I said. I was about to say the same thing. Ashley shifted in her seat. Logan, don't make this dramatic. Oh, I'm not dramatic, I replied, leaning back. I'm practical, which is why I had a little chat with Mr. Peterson last week. Chase's smirk faltered. Ashley frowned. Who's Mr. Peterson? I sipped my scotch slowly, enjoying the suspense. Your boss. The one who doesn't know his star employee has been conducting extracurricular team-building exercises during office hours. Ashley froze, fork halfway to her mouth. Chase cleared his throat. You talked to him? Of course, I said casually. Nice man. Very receptive. Loved the audio files I sent him. He was especially interested in the one where you two discussed how to keep your meetings off the books. Ashley's face drained of color. Chase's jaw tightened. I smiled, cool and steady. Relax. I told him I'd keep quiet until after dinner tonight. Figured you deserved a chance to explain yourselves. Civilized, right? Ashley whispered. You wouldn't. Oh, I would, I said. And I did. Now it's just a matter of whether I send the follow-up tomorrow. That depends on how this evening goes. Chase leaned forward, his voice low and tense. What do you want? I set my glass down, slow and deliberate. What I want, I said, is for you two to understand, I'm not the fool in this story. You are. Ashley's hand trembled against her napkin. And just like that, the ball was in my court. Exactly where I wanted it. Ashley tried to recover fast. That was always her thing. Smooth over chaos, pretend it never happened. She leaned in, lowering her voice like we were just discussing salad options. Logan, don't do this. You're upset. We can work through this privately. I smiled. Privately? You brought me here with him. I nodded toward Chase. So forgive me if I don't feel like privacy was ever on the menu. Chase cleared his throat, trying to take control. Look, Logan. I held up a finger. No, you don't get the floor yet, son. You'll wait your turn. He shut his mouth. Good boy. Ashley's eyes flashed. You can't just blackmail us. Blackmail? I said, feigning shock. That's a strong word. I'm not asking for money. I'm just providing information management services. For free. She shifted in her chair, clutching her napkin like it could hold her marriage together. What do you want from me? I leaned forward, folding my hands on the table. Honestly, Ashley, I don't want a thing. Because while you were planning this cute little dinner ambush, I was planning an exit. A clean one. No yelling, no begging. Just me walking away with everything I actually care about. She blinked. Everything. I nodded. House. In my name. Savings. Already moved. Retirement fund. Locked tight. And that Lexus you love so much? Hope Chase likes public transport. Her jaw dropped. You can't. Oh, I can, I said smoothly. See, unlike you, I know how to think ahead. That's what makes the difference between a partner and a parasite. For the first time all night, she had no words. Chase finally spoke up. So you're just gonna walk away? After all these years? I tilted my head. Walk away? No. I'm going to let you two enjoy each other. Fully. No secrets, no sneaking around. But here's the fun part. I let the pause hang, watching Ashley's breath catch. Everyone else is going to know too. Her fork clattered against the plate. You wouldn't dare. I smirked. Ashley, you really need to stop underestimating me. Ashley had always been good at pretending she was in control. It was her superpower. Even in high school, she was the girl who could cheat on an exam, smile at the teacher, and walk away with an A. She built her entire life on that knack for manipulation, until tonight. I'd never seen her look so cornered. Not when I caught her lying about working late. Not when I asked why her phone suddenly had a password. Tonight was different. Tonight, her armor was cracking, and she hated that I could see it. Her fork hit the plate with a loud clatter. The couple at the next table turned their heads briefly before returning to their spaghetti and wine, oblivious to the implosion happening 2 feet away. Logan, Ashley whispered, her voice sharp. You're making a mistake. I leaned back, folding my arms across my chest. Funny, I was about to say the same thing. Chase shifted uncomfortably, as though he was realizing the appetizer hadn't been worth the price of admission. He leaned toward her, lowering his voice. Ashley, maybe we should. Quiet, she snapped, and I swear, it was the first time she'd ever cut him off. Interesting. I sipped my scotch. Smooth, smoky, and exactly the kind of drink you order when you want to savor the moment. You know what your problem is, Ashley? You think I'm still the same man you married. The one who gave you the benefit of the doubt, who swallowed every excuse you handed me. That guy's gone. Her eyes narrowed, her lips curling into that familiar smirk she used when she was about to deliver what she thought was a checkmate. You don't have the guts, Logan. You'd never blow up your own life just to spite me. I chuckled. See, that's where you're wrong. You think this is about spite. It's not. It's about truth. And the truth is, you've been cheating on me emotionally for months, maybe longer. Chase here, I tipped my glass toward him, is just the latest symptom, not the cause. For once, Chase didn't look smug. He looked nervous, like maybe he was realizing that betting a married woman wasn't the career boost he thought it was. Ashley leaned forward, whispering like she was telling a secret no one else should hear. You don't want to do this. Think about what people will say. Think about how it'll look for you. I set my glass down with a deliberate clink. Ashley, the difference between you and me is that I don't care what people say. I care about facts. And the fact is, you're about to lose everything. She laughed, sharp and brittle. You wouldn't dare take me down. You'd look pathetic. Bitter. Bitter. I grinned. Maybe. But pathetic? No. That's your role now. Her smile faltered. Just a fraction, but enough for me to notice. I pulled out my phone, placed it on the table, and tapped the screen. The glow illuminated a neat little list of files. Audio recordings. Screenshots. Bank transfers she didn't know I'd seen. Ashley's face drained of color. What is that? Insurance, I said. See, while you were busy sneaking around, I was busy collecting. And now I have everything I need to make sure when this story breaks, the world knows exactly who you are. Chase leaned in, whispering harshly. Delete it. Now. I turned my gaze on him, calm and steady. Chase, let me give you a piece of advice. If you're going to sleep with a married woman, make sure her husband isn't 3 steps ahead. Saves you the headache. Ashley reached across the table, her fingers brushing mine. I didn't flinch. Logan, please. We can work this out. That was rich. The same woman who'd spent months looking at me like I was a placeholder was now begging. Work this out. I asked. You mean like the time you told me you were too tired for date night because of a late meeting, but you checked into the Hilton on 8th instead? Her eyes widened. How do you? I smiled. Like I said, 3 steps ahead. The waiter appeared, cheerful and oblivious. Ready for the main course. Ashley forced a smile, her voice trembling. Could we have a minute? He nodded, retreating. I leaned in, dropping my voice so only they could hear. Here's how this is going to work. You two are going to finish your dinner, smile for the waiter, and walk out of here like nothing happened. Then, tomorrow, I'll make my decision. Maybe I send the files to your boss, Ashley. Maybe I don't. Maybe I let you keep your job. Or maybe I let Chase explain why he thought it was smart to play house with a married woman. Her nails dug into her napkin. You'd ruin me. No, I said softly. You ruined yourself. I'm just the guy holding up the mirror. Chase finally found his voice again. What do you get out of this? Huh. You already said you don't want money. I smirked. Peace. Freedom. And the satisfaction of watching Ashley realize she's not the queen on the chessboard anymore. She's just a pawn who ran out of moves. Silence settled over the table. Ashley's hand trembled as she set down her fork. For the first time, she looked small. And that's when I knew I'd already won. But here's the twist. I didn't plan to end it here. No, this was just the opening act. Ashley still thought this was about exposure, about me threatening her job. What she didn't realize was that I'd been setting up something far more permanent. Because when you've been married to a woman who treats loyalty like a joke, you learn patience. You learn timing. And most of all, you learn the art of the long game. So while Ashley sat there trying to think of her next move, I raised my glass one last time. To endings, I said. She didn't drink. She couldn't. And that was fine. Because I wasn't thirsty anymore. People always think the end of a marriage is a single dramatic moment. A slammed door. A packed suitcase. A revelation shouted in a crowded restaurant. But the truth is, endings don't happen in an instant. They seep in slowly, like water through a crack in the ceiling, until one day the whole roof caves in. For Ashley, that slow leak turned into a flood the moment I raised my glass to endings. She didn't drink. She couldn't. Her hand stayed frozen over the stem of her glass, her eyes darting between me and Chase like she was calculating which one of us might save her first. Chase leaned closer to her. He's bluffing, he whispered, but not quietly enough. I smiled. You think I'm bluffing? Cute. You know, I actually hoped you'd say that. I tapped my phone. The screen lit up, showing a video thumbnail. Ashley's hand shot out like she could snatch the phone from across the table. What is that? Evidence, I said, calm as a judge handing down a sentence. But don't worry, this one's not for your boss. Not yet. Her voice dropped to a hiss. You recorded me? No, sweetheart. I recorded us. Every fight, every late-night call where you forgot to hang up, every little slip you thought I missed. Turns out, I don't miss much. She sat back, breathing unevenly. I could tell her brain was sprinting, trying to find a way to spin this. That was Ashley's specialty, spin. She'd once convinced our friends that I'd wanted to skip their wedding when in reality, she just hadn't wanted to go. She could talk her way out of quicksand. But not tonight. Not here. Chase finally spoke up, his voice dripping with impatience. All right, man. Enough of the games. What's it going to take for you to drop this? I turned my eyes on him, letting silence do the heavy lifting. You're not in the position to bargain, Chase. In fact, you're not even a player. You're a prop in Ashley's story. He flushed, jaw tightening. You think you're the only guy in the world? She doesn't love you anymore. That was supposed to hurt. It didn't. Not because it wasn't true, but because I'd known it long before he said it. I leaned in, my voice steady. Chase, let me explain something. When you build your life around someone, you start to see the fine print in their character. Ashley here doesn't leave people she stops loving. She drains them dry first. Ashley flinched. Chase glanced at her, searching her face for denial, reassurance, anything. He found nothing. Logan, she said softly, switching tactics. We can fix this. Please. I don't want to lose everything. There it was, the closest thing to honesty she'd given me in months. Not I don't want to lose you. Not I made a mistake. Just I don't want to lose everything. I tilted my head. You already have. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. Ashley set her fork down carefully, as if moving too quickly might shatter what little control she had left. If you do this, you'll regret it. I laughed quietly. Ashley, I regret marrying you. The rest is just cleanup. Her mouth opened, then shut again. For once, she had no script ready. The waiter returned with plates of steaming pasta, smiling like we were three old friends enjoying a night out. Here we are, he said cheerfully, setting the plates down. Ashley mumbled a thank you. Chase muttered something about more bread. I smiled politely and waited for the waiter to leave before I spoke again. Here's the thing, Ashley, I said, twirling the fork in my pasta like I wasn't dismantling her entire world in real time. You think this is about revenge. It's not. Revenge is too quick, too messy. What I'm after is something better. She stared at me, eyes narrowing. What do you mean? I set the fork down, leaned in, and lowered my voice. I want you to watch. To know that every single step you take from here on out is a step you earned. That every door that closes, every friend that pulls away, every opportunity that slips through your fingers, it's because of the choices you made. Her lips parted, trembling. You can't. Oh, I can, I interrupted smoothly. And I already have. You see, while you were busy playing house with Chase here, I was busy moving funds, locking down assets, and having very interesting conversations with people you didn't think I knew. Her eyes darted toward Chase, who looked more confused than ever. I continued. Remember last month when you begged me to sign the refinance papers? Said it would help with the credit score? She blinked. Yes. I smirked. I didn't sign. But you did. Which means your name is the only one tied to that ballooning interest rate. Hope Chase is ready to cover half the mortgage. Chase's head snapped toward her. Wait, what? She ignored him, her eyes locked on me. Wide and desperate. You wouldn't. You keep saying that, I said softly. But you should really stop underestimating me. Silence. Only the sound of clinking forks from nearby tables, laughter in the distance, and the faint music playing from the restaurant speakers. It was surreal, a normal night for everyone else, while Ashley's kingdom quietly burned to the ground. I pushed my chair back slightly, reached into my jacket, and pulled out a folded piece of paper. I set it on the table between us. What's this? She whispered. Your choice, I said. She stared down at it, hands trembling. Chase leaned over to peek, and I didn't stop him. Let him see. It was a separation agreement. Simple, clean, already signed on my end. You sign that, I said. And tomorrow, I'll make sure the files stay exactly where they are. Quiet. And used. You'll keep your job, your reputation. Maybe even Chase, if he sticks around after the fallout. But if you don't sign, I let the sentence hang in the air, heavy as a storm cloud. Ashley swallowed hard. You're bluffing. I leaned in close enough that she could see the calm in my eyes. Try me. She sat frozen, her face pale, her breath shallow. Chase finally broke the silence. Ashley, maybe you should just sign it. That was the moment I realized the game had shifted completely. Not because Ashley was cornered, but because Chase, her shiny new future, had just jumped off her sinking ship. Her eyes flicked to him, then back to me. And for the first time in years, she looked exactly like what she'd always feared being, powerless. I stood slowly, sliding the paper closer to her. Think it over, I said. But don't take too long. The clock's ticking. I placed a few bills on the table for the waiter and slipped my phone back into my pocket. Ashley whispered, Logan, please. I smiled faintly. Endings, Ashley. You said I'd regret this. But trust me, you're the only one who will. Then I walked out, leaving her sitting there with a plate of untouched pasta, a man already halfway out the door, and a pen shaking in her hand. People always said Ashley had a way of landing on her feet. I'd watched her spin disasters into victories before, whether it was talking her way out of a parking ticket or convincing her boss to give her a raise she hadn't earned. But that night at the Italian place, watching her fingers tremble over the separation agreement, I knew she was running out of lives. I left her sitting there with Chase half checked out already, the agreement on the table like a guillotine blade waiting to drop. Walking out into the cool night air, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Freedom. Not joy. Not triumph. Freedom. Like I'd finally stopped holding my breath after living underwater too long. But freedom, as I was about to learn, has a way of attracting desperate people who want to chain it back down. The first move came the next morning. My phone buzzed at 7:02 a.m., Ashley's name flashing across the screen. I didn't answer. She called again at 7:04 and 7:07. I finally silenced the phone and poured myself a coffee. At 7:15, a text. We need to talk. Please. I'll sign. Just come home. I smirked. Please. That was a new word in her vocabulary. By 8 o'clock, I got another message. If you do this, you'll ruin both of us. Do you really want that? I didn't reply. Let her stew. Silence, I'd learned, was far more powerful than any angry word. At 10:30, there was a knock on my door. Not Ashley. Her sister, Claire. Logan, she said, brushing past me into the living room like she owned the place. She told me what you're doing. You can't just blow up 20 years of marriage because you're hurt. I raised an eyebrow. Funny, she didn't mind blowing it up when she was sneaking around with Chase. Claire winced, but didn't argue. Instead, she sat on the edge of the couch. She's scared. She says you've got evidence. I leaned against the doorway, sipping my coffee. Scared is good. Means she's finally paying attention. Logan, listen to me. Claire leaned forward, lowering her voice like we were co-conspirators. If you expose her, you'll tank her career. Do you want that on your conscience? I smiled faintly. Claire, she tanked it herself. I'm just the guy with the receipts. Her lips tightened. She's still your wife. I shook my head slowly. Correction, she was my wife. Now she's a cautionary tale. Claire sighed, stood up, and shot me a look equal parts pity and frustration. Don't do this, Logan. You'll regret it. I didn't answer. She left without another word. By noon, Ashley herself showed up. She didn't knock this time. She had a key, though I'd already changed the locks. She pounded on the door until I opened it. Her eyes were bloodshot, makeup smudged like she'd been up all night rehearsing her lines. She held the separation agreement in one hand. I'll sign it, she said quickly, like the words might dissolve if she didn't spit them out fast enough. But we need to talk about terms. I crossed my arms. Terms? Ashley, you're not negotiating. You're surrendering. She bristled. You think you've won. But you haven't. I still have options. I tilted my head. Like Chase. Her face twitched. That was answer enough. I stepped aside just enough for her to see the neat stack of boxes by the wall. Labeled, organized, ready to go. Her breath hitched. You packed. I packed, I said evenly. Not for me. For you. She blinked. You're kicking me out. Not kicking, I corrected calmly. Releasing. Big difference. She stepped inside, ignoring the boxes, her voice shaking now. Logan, please. Don't do this. We can start over. I laughed softly. Start over? Ashley, the only thing we'd be starting over is the same cycle. You cheat. You lie. You beg. I forgive. Rinse and repeat. I'm done being your laundromat. Her eyes filled, but not with remorse, with anger. You think you're better than me. No, I said. I just think I'm finally smarter than you. She stared at me for a long moment, then dropped the separation agreement onto the coffee table. Fine. I'll sign. But don't think this is over. I smirked. Oh, I don't. In fact, I'm counting on it. Because here's the thing. While Ashley thought she was making a desperate gambit, I already had the final move waiting in the wings. See, I hadn't told her the whole truth about those files. Yes, I had recordings, screenshots, bank records. But the real ace in my pocket? A neat little folder I'd handed to my lawyer 2 weeks before that dinner. Inside that folder were not just her lies, but her debts. The hidden credit cards she'd opened. The business expenses she'd billed to the joint account that went straight to Chase's little side hustles. And the piece de resistance, a tidy list of transactions to an Airbnb she'd rented under a fake name. She thought I was bluffing about destroying her reputation. But I wasn't bluffing at all. That night, while she was probably lying awake plotting her next move, I sat at my desk, sipping bourbon, drafting an email to her boss. I didn't send it. Not yet. I wanted her to sweat first. And she did. The next day, another text. Can we meet tonight? Just us. No lawyers. Please. I smiled at the phone. Desperation looks good on her. So I agreed. We met at a cafe downtown, one of those quiet places she used to love posting about on Instagram. She walked in wearing the necklace I'd given her on our 10th anniversary, like nostalgia might buy her a discount. She sat down across from me, folding her hands like a student begging a teacher for extra credit. Logan, I know I hurt you, but you don't want to do this. Not really. I raised an eyebrow. Don't I? She leaned closer. You'll destroy me. And if I go down, I'm taking you with me. I chuckled. Ashley, that's adorable. You think you still have that kind of power? She scowled. I can still make people believe you're the bad guy. I leaned back, sipping my coffee. Sure you can. But the difference is, I have proof. You have stories. And stories don't hold up in court. Her face paled. She knew I was right. For a long moment, we sat in silence, the air between us thick with everything we weren't saying. Finally, she whispered, "So what now?" I smiled faintly. "Now? You wait." "Wait for what?" I stood, dropping a 5 on the table for the coffee. "For me to decide just how much of your world I let burn." Her lips parted, but no words came. She just stared as I walked out, leaving her sitting there like a queen without a throne. What she didn't know, what she couldn't know, was that the cruelest part of my revenge hadn't even started yet. Ashley always thought the battlefield was our marriage. She figured if she could win the argument, she'd win the war. But the real war wasn't about love or even loyalty. It was about control, and she didn't realize she'd already lost it. After the cafe, she went silent for 2 days. Not a call, not a text. That silence used to scare me. Now it told me one thing. She was plotting. I wasn't worried, because while she was busy trying to figure out how to spin the story, I was 3 steps ahead, like always. The day the silence broke, I got a knock at the door. Not Ashley. A man in a suit, envelope in hand. "Mr. Keller?" he asked. "That's me. Consider yourself served. Divorce papers." Her move. I smiled as I closed the door. She thought she'd surprised me. Truth was, I'd been waiting for it. I sat at the kitchen table, scanning the paperwork. Custody demands. Spousal support requests. Asset division. The works. She wasn't trying to leave. She was trying to bleed me. I leaned back, chuckling. Cute. Because what Ashley didn't know, couldn't know, was that everything she thought was mine was already secured. Accounts shifted. Property protected. Even the joint savings had been quietly moved into a trust she had no access to. That night, I called my lawyer. She finally pulled the trigger. I said, "Good," he replied. "Then we can finish this." "Finish?" I asked. He chuckled. "Logan, we're not just finishing. We're winning." And that's when I realized Ashley wasn't just playing the wrong game. She was playing against a man who had already written the rules. Ashley came over 3 days later. Not to apologize. Not to negotiate. To threaten. She stood on the porch, arms crossed, wearing the red dress she always swore made me weak. "Not this time. Logan," she said coldly. "If you drag me through court, I'll make sure everyone knows you're abusive." I raised an eyebrow. "Abusive? That's a stretch." She smirked. "All I need is to look scared enough. People believe women. You know that." For a moment, I just stared at her. Then I pulled out my phone and tapped the screen. The audio played. "If you do this, you'll ruin both of us. Do you really want that?" Her own voice. Her eyes widened. "You recorded me?" "Every word," I said calmly. "Every threat. Every lie. Try me, Ashley. I dare you." Her lips tightened. For once, she didn't have a comeback. "Here's the thing," I continued. "You've spent so long underestimating me that you forgot who I am. I don't yell. I don't beg. I document." She turned on her heel, storming back to her car. Tires squealed as she pulled away. I watched her go, smiling faintly. Queens don't like realizing their crowns are made of tin. Weeks passed. Court dates loomed. Ashley tried every trick in the book. Emotional texts. Fake tears and mediation. Claims she couldn't survive without spousal support. But every time she made a move, I had an answer. When she claimed she couldn't pay her bills, I slid copies of her hidden bank accounts across the table. When she said Chase was just a friend, I produced the Airbnb receipts. When she tried to paint me as cold and unfeeling, I played a recording of her mocking me for folding my socks. The judge didn't laugh, but I could see the disgust on his face. Chase, meanwhile, had already ghosted her. Rumor had it he'd been transferred to another branch. I didn't need to ask why. My files had a way of reaching the right inboxes. Ashley looked smaller every time I saw her. Less polished, less certain. But I wasn't done. Because revenge isn't about the court ruling. It's about the final cut, the one they never see coming. The final hearing came on a rainy Thursday. Ashley showed up in a navy blazer, hair pulled back, makeup heavy enough to hide the sleepless nights. She didn't look at me as we sat down. The judge reviewed the evidence, then cleared his throat. Given the documentation provided, the court sees no grounds for spousal support. Assets will remain with Mr. Keller. Mrs. Keller, you will vacate the marital home within 30 days. Ashley's jaw dropped. 30 days. No house. No money. No Chase. The gavel struck. Done. But the real twist hadn't landed yet. As we left the courtroom, Ashley caught up to me in the hall. "You think you've won?" she hissed. I smiled. "Ashley, I didn't just win. I retired from the game." She frowned. "What do you mean?" I leaned closer, my voice low enough that only she could hear. "You know that charity gala you love so much? The one you brag about every year." Her eyes flickered. "What about it?" I pulled out my phone, showing her the email already queued to send. Photos, screenshots, a neat little timeline of her affair with Chase, addressed to the gala's entire donor list. Her face went pale. "You wouldn't." I smirked. "Relax. I didn't send it. Not yet. But here's the kicker. I don't need to. Because I already sent it to one person, your mother." Ashley froze. Of all the people in the world, her mother was the one she'd spent her whole life trying to impress. The one she swore she'd never disappoint. Her lips trembled. "You?" I cut her off. "No. You did this." I just let the truth walk through the front door. For the first time in all this, Ashley had no words. No smirk. No spin. Just silence. I put my phone back in my pocket, adjusted my jacket, and walked away. And as I stepped out into the rain, I realized something. Revenge isn't loud. It isn't dramatic. It doesn't need fireworks. It's quiet. Precise. It's the sound of a queen realizing the board doesn't belong to her anymore. And that sound, that's freedom.